Today's talk is focused on two areas. First, we have uh, the Bob Lutz 2.0 strategy that's being employed by Ford when it comes to electric trucks. The second thing we look at, which is actually our first item today, is the introduction of the Cybertruck by Tesla. Our B-roll footage today is of Ford partner Deutsche Bank or Deutsch Post of Germany. The the vehicles you see have a Ford chassis, and then the top of the vehicle is actually designed by Deutsch Post. So we look at their manufacturing of small units of these electric delivery vehicles in Germany as our part two. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome back. Welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. So the big news that's hit is that Tesla, as of November 21, 2019, is delivering the Cyberpunktruck. And we think this is great news to hear that Tesla is going to offer something to those who are drivers of pickup trucks. At least in the United States each year, there are about 100 million vehicles sold annually globally, but in the United States, there's approximately 17 million vehicles sold each year. Of those, approximately 3 million of them are pickup trucks. And when we go into this further, it's clear that Ford is the leader with about a million of those 3 million being the Ford F-150. So we lead up to this with the fact that Elon has been threatening to deliver a truck, and in this case, it's his Cybertruck for the last several years, and it's finally happening. Now, we have been light on coverage of this, one, because the vehicle doesn't exist, but two, because we have the same issue with this one slightly that we do with the Model Y, which is the fact that why is it that Tesla keeps coming up with these new vehicles that suck large amount of development dollars, but they are multiple years away from being delivered? So that means that customers are kind of stuck as to when these things will show up. So we actually have an interesting answer to that, and that is that if in fact you deliver a vehicle and start taking delivery or deposits on it, and those deposits are large enough, you can finish out paying for development and build out of factory costs with those deposits. Plus, you get all that money sitting on the balance sheet, further strengthens the company. So while I may have been still a skeptic of announcing vehicles that are 2-3 years away, the fact that Tesla gets a stronger balance sheet out of it, I think, is a good deal. So I guess I can't really argue with the company strengthening itself on those deposits, even though my concern really is having frustrated customers that wait 2 years before they finally see a product. So let's go through everything we know in terms of specs. First, the truck will start at $50,000. The highest variant of the truck will be capable of between 400 and 500 miles of range, and the towing capacity of that top-end vehicle is said to be 300,000 pounds. Now, we'll do a short segue here to note that in anticipation of this, Ford has actually started delivering commercials showing their electric vehicle pulling 1 million pounds or 1.2 million pounds inside of a train, but there's no other information about the vehicle, no charging station information, when it's going to come out, none of that, or even range for the Ford vehicle. So it's prompted some interesting responses, if you will, in this case, from the largest seller of trucks, Ford. The other bits of information that were provided are that this vehicle is being introduced on the 21st. As usual for Tesla, it's being delivered at the Design Center in Los Angeles. Why is this a big deal? I guess it isn't. But I do want to mention one thing, which is that if you want to fly to this event from Baltimore on a really crappy airline, well, I guess not really crappy, from Baltimore to Los Angeles on the 19th, Frontier Airlines actually has $51 one-ways. So in theory, if you're East Coast based, possibly Denver based, you might be able to sneak a flight in there at a terrific price, in and out, because it's prior to the Thanksgiving break. And I think that's awesome. Now, I want to also note in the show that we're making every effort to show up and cover this event. So those of you who are viewers in Los Angeles, please drop us a note on Teslafaninsight. Once we have our flights scheduled, etc., we will actually be doing an event in the greater Los Angeles area, perhaps our first, and there's all kinds of great places to choose. So please note if there's interest, as well as your suggestion of where we might meet. I'm thinking West LA. The marina tends to make it easy for parking and easy to get to, so that's sort of the region that we're targeting for showing up. What you'll notice behind me is I actually have video playing of the manufacturer of something called the street scooter. And what that is Deutsch Post is a German, the post office there, but it's a private company, and they've been very focused on electric. Their initial vehicle was a 50-kilometer range small postal delivery truck for short-range delivery of mail. And they produced a number of those for themselves and have now started producing and shipping internationally. As they've decided to upgrade to a longer range with more delivery freight, they actually are manufacturing their own vehicles. And it turns out that the chassis for these vehicles it's a Ford pickup truck. So I'm going to roll it back here. So we wanted you to take a look at this and maybe look up street scooter and Ford, because right now what's happening is the folks at Daimler have snuck in and figured out a way to get a copy of this truck and actually take it apart so that they could determine how to replicate it. So bottom line is that Deutsch Post actually has a Ford truck. Its range is approximately 100 miles. It's being used by Deutsch Post, and they're allowed to have it in Germany and use it successfully. But in the United States, we do not get access. And this sort of moves us into the reason why we put Bob Lutz 2.0 on this show, even though this is about the Cyberpuntruck and some of the interesting statistics that it's produced. We kind of had to blend in some other info because obviously the truck hasn't been introduced yet, but we can introduce some logic streams that we're seeing from U.S. manufacturers that don't serve the public very well, but it kind of serves the companies very well. And we're calling this Bob Lutz 2.0 because there are a number of companies, including Ford, that has an interesting sort of situation going on, which is they know about the Tesla threat. They have vehicles ready to go to deal with that threat, but they're fearful of the cannibalization effect in which you have these new vehicles that climb into the marketplace that consume sales from their most profitable vehicles, in this case for Ford, the F-150. So what the Bob Lutz 2.0 is in this case is that instead of allowing Amazon or even the post office or short-range entities in the United States to have this vehicle right now, Ford is choosing not to introduce an electric truck that could be a delivery vehicle that I think would be very successful in the United States, especially in places like Los Angeles, et cetera, that are focused on pollution. We just think it's kind of interesting because you now have this phenomenon where you have a truck that's ready to go, has been tested, thousands of copies of them out there, and they're only available in Germany for the folks that purchase street scooters. And Ford will not bring that product to the United States until folks like Tesla decide that they're going to introduce competition for those F-150s. So it's an interesting phenomenon to watch the Cyberpunktruck trigger Ford getting with Rivian and others to make sure that this truck is delivered. And speaking of Rivian, this presents a very interesting question mark. One would think that based on Tesla's productive capacity, the Rivian truck and the Cyberpunktruck should be expected to arrive at or around the same time. And we believe that this is kind of a disaster for the folks at Rivian because, you know, we haven't seen the full specs of Tesla's vehicle yet. But the question mark that pops up is that if you end up with your vehicle arriving at the same time as Tesla, one of the head-to-head statistics that seems to play out is that the truck from Rivian is claiming 11,000 pounds of towing capacity, while in the case of the Tesla truck, they're claiming 300,000 pounds of towing capacity. And if they can tow that at decent range, when you add on things like the supercharger network of Tesla combined with the existing platform of sales and service, it actually makes life, I think, very rough for Rivian because there are a lot of signups and orders that they would have gotten that they're going to have to question if, in fact, Tesla's entering their space at around the same time. Now, based on Tesla's history, we think that the vehicle will be announced for delivery at the end of next year, the beginning of 2021. And then, as usual, we think the reality is probably 2 years off, possibly 3. But it does put the market on notice, about this vehicle, etc. Now, we have a lot of bright viewers like yourself. We're planning on being there for the intro. We'd love to hear if you have any questions or thoughts, etc. And be happy to respond to those by baking them into questions we might ask, etc. And so we're kind of open to that. So the goal of this show wasn't, as you can tell, a massive agenda. We really wanted to just introduce the fact that the 21st we'll see the newest vehicle arrive. I believe that it's actually going to strengthen the balance sheet of Tesla because once this is added to the website and people can now start pre-ordering, they also have to put up deposits. And so all those development costs that have been going on into the truck for the last 3 years, I think will be covered in the first 20 to 30 days. And then after that, we'll start seeing some other benefits of all that cash sitting around for 1 or 2 years without having to be dispersed. And that can help fuel the rest of the products that Tesla actually has to build and deliver. Typically we wait till after the 15-20 minute mark for questions. Feel free to throw out any questions that you guys may have as we close out the show in the next 3 or 4 minutes or so. So again, Los Angeles, the 21st of November, 2019, Cybertruck arrival. Elon Musk sort of works there with SpaceX on one side and the design facility for Tesla on the other. What we're looking forward to upon going there is to see the tunnel that was built next to SpaceX for the Boring Company, as well as anything that might be out and obvious from SpaceX. And it also gives us opportunity to perhaps meet with some executives that are Stanford affiliated that are at SpaceX and at Tesla in the area at the time. In particular, our goal is to perhaps get a few minutes with J.B. Straubel. I don't know if you saw it, but he stepped down as CTO, but he's still involved heavily as an advisor and was recently spotted in China meeting with the China Tesla club there. So we're actually glad to see him still around. Speaking of J.B. Straubel, our next show on the Semi, we actually will revisit some of J.B. Straubel's comments on the Tesla Semi. We think you'll find those interesting, and we try to at least get a Semi discussion in once every couple of weeks. And our next show sort of revisits his analysis of the semi truck and what its capabilities are. So we look forward to presenting that. Um, any, anyway, we're getting some comical statements here from Top Master, and I wanted to note that we'll add new words to our end of show, but if it's a curse word or something, we get in trouble with the folks at YouTube. So we'll make sure we do a lot of homework before we introduce new comments into the show, because we will get dinged by YouTube for comments unbecoming, and would not want to have that happen and damage the channel. So, you know, to review again, finally, just to note, you're seeing the Ford vehicle that's here. It's part of it's part of the 2.0 strategy, Bob Lutz wise, from Ford, wherein you sort of help entities get going out of the limelight of your primary sales and avoid damaging your sales in terms of cannibalizing current sales until you're absolutely forced into it. Wow. Interesting. We just got a comment that the share was that Rivian is having challenges. Their range and power is limited by some of the heat challenges they're having. So, very interesting comment. I appreciate your sharing that. We've had no close contact with Rivian, but, I think that, it definitely makes sense. This also highlights the fact that, as we all know, Tesla, both battery and the thermal management system is one of the core concepts for the success of Tesla currently. And, there's a paradox there that is going to be revealed over the next couple of years that we still haven't figured out, which is, so if you have a Tesla battery that's inside the battery pack, let's call it a AAA battery. It's an aluminum shell with material inside. One of the question marks that's coming up is that LG and others have chosen initially to do fairly large packs where they minimize the number of packs and they're not made of metal. That reduces weight and therefore reduces costs. But the challenge is large packs with large components of it were ineffective when it comes to supercharging, because your heat management, you want to have a smaller pack, and this allows you to manage heat relative to supercharging, etc. What's kind of interesting about this is that if you step further back, there's a question mark, which is how is Tesla able to do all these packs in these batteries that, the net cost should be higher than the packs that LG is producing. So LG went from producing perhaps 10 modules in their pack to the last we saw, they actually have 600 smaller packs that they use, and those packs enable them to now move into the supercharging realm because they actually can better control the heat, hot and cold, within a smaller unit. So they haven't gone completely to the 2170 style. They're still maintaining the pouch technology, but stretching it over to make it supercharger able. Hence, Porsche and some of the other manufacturers they're working with are able to use that technique to control heat and cold in the management of that battery. So we appreciate the comment regarding Rivian battling heat challenges. The fact that they're having those issues and we don't see large numbers of vehicles under heavy testing suggests that these are the kind of things that could end up causing problems down the road, and it shows why many customers will choose to roll with Tesla, even if the specs might be slightly better or different in the case of Rivian. We also did point out that Rivian has an interesting decision to make. Unless they are swallowed up by Ford quicker than planned, they have to produce 100,000 vans, and those vans don't have any off-roading capabilities. They just take advantage of the underlying chassis that Rivian is producing. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. So just a reminder today, You know, we're in America, we're in chicken sandwich zone. So as you probably all know, Popeye's chicken has come out. I've tried it out. My rating on it is um, good, not great, because chicken breasts are notoriously hard to bring moisture in. So they've done a good job of adding a sauce that's perhaps mayo based that allows them to get spicy and add some moisture back in. So the combination of the fact that they've always had a good chicken combined with a moisture reintroduction technique makes it a great sandwich. And someone actually died in the process of trying to acquire one a few days ago. So I think it's at least worth a try if you get a chance. If you like chicken, if you like sandwiches, definitely unhealthy, but very good. Any rate, just a reminder, don't forget 25 leg lifts per leg before, at the front of the day as a way to strengthen the quad muscles and limit and add support to the knees, limiting potential issues in that regard. Also a reminder, don't go to bed within 4 hours of eating, minimum 2 hours to allow the food to digest so that we have better, healthier outcomes for you. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Wanted to thank, I saw Donovan, Gamiel, I saw a number of you that said hello. I wanted to thank all of you for reaching out. Please remember to like and subscribe. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, mach's gut. German, au revoir. French, lehitraot. Hebrew, choda hafez. Farsi, zdravstvuyte, Russian, ni hao ma, Chinese, and hejdu, thanks to Donovan from Sweden. And in Jamaica, we say, "Nuff respect, walk Goodman." Thanks for joining us and have a great day. And we look forward to providing more info on the truck as it arrives.